for them and let them come in with me. So that kind of thing might be what we're looking for in this accomplice or this other alleged gunman. It might be somebody that actually worked there, knew him, and maybe that's the person that allowed him access.
And John, let me ask you, we just have some details coming in right now that I want to just make sure I share with you and our viewers, that they're now saying, literally, as you were talking to him, the suspect drove in this morning to the U.S. Naval Yard with his military contractor ID and parked, walked into the building, and then made his way in to begin his shooting spree. He was armed with an AR-15, a rifle, and a semi-automatic Glock. They believe that he used the AR-15 for most of the shooting, which, of course, is a weapon which has been used in recent horrible shootings, including Sandy Hook, as well as Aurora. John, let me ask you, though, how this happened. There's a reporting that we have now used in military contractor ID. How is this so? He served in the Navy, and then while he was in the Navy, he was arrested for an anger-fueled shooting in Seattle. Still stayed in the Navy. Finally, the Navy discharges him for a pattern of misconduct, and he's allowed to work again as a contractor. How does that happen? How can this guy walk in with a contractor ID and some kind of light go off saying, this guy was sent away for a pattern of misconduct, he shouldn't be allowed in?
Well, I think Tim is right. First of all, we need to think about these families. They're expecting their loved ones home about this time, and they're not home, so our hearts go out to them. But how did he get in? I think Americans need to be vigilant, and we need to remember that we're living in different times. Evil does exist. I think we should have learned some lessons from Fort Hood. That's a different time. So when we're training teams, we say it takes everyone to succeed and one person to mess it up. Americans need to be vigilant. If you see something, you need to say something. And even if it's your friend, don't leave the door open for him.
And John, what do you know? I mean, given your experience as a Navy SEAL, I don't know your specific experience with this facility, but when he went in, would he go through screening for weapons? Would it show up? You have an AR-15, a Glock, and another weapon, and that is a problem? Or would you not have to clear through any kind of metal detection, et cetera, if you had that contractor ID?
Well, I'm not at liberty to discuss security measures on the naval facilities, but I will say that based on what happened at Fort Hood, we definitely should learn our lesson and strengthen those facilities. I'll also say with the proper training, he could have a single-action bolt-action rifle and do as much damage, if not more.
All right, well, Tim and John, stay with me. I want to bring in Evan Perez now because Evan was the one who just broke that news that I shared with you. Evan, what else can you tell us? You're finding out about the weapons that Aaron Alexis had and also how he gained access. Tell me more.
Right. We were told this morning that he apparently drove in, parked, and made his way right over to the location, the building where the shooting took place. He walked straight up to the location that overlooks the atrium and started shooting. He was armed with an AR-15, with a rifle, and with a Glock semi-automatic. It is believed, the FBI believes that most of the shooting was done using an AR-15. At this hour, the FBI agents have determined he was the only shooter. As you know, there's still someone else that they're trying to, the DC police is trying to figure out whether there's any association, but the FBI has determined there was only one shooter at the scene today.
And Evan, in terms of this other person, and I know you're working this story right now as we speak, but obviously they said this could have been another shooter, and now you're saying a person of interest, whether this person got involved. Do you have any sense of what involvement they're looking at, as in, this person knew it was happening and helped Aaron Alexis gain access, or was it something else, or is it still unclear at this moment?
Well, it's very unclear. I think for the sake of the police, I think if there are witnesses who see someone running from the scene and report that there was something suspicious, I think they want to make sure they talk to that person before they cross them off the list. At this point, the FBI has determined that there was only one shooter. It was Aaron Alexis. Again, it looks like he drove in. He's a military contractor. He was allowed onto this property. They're still not sure what motivated him to do this. There's no sign of any ideology, any kind of anti-government sentiment or anything like the Fort Hood incident, obviously. Right now, they're still just trying to figure out what could have caused this right now.
And we are going to have much more on this, as I've told our viewers. We've been speaking to people who know Aaron Alexis and his religious affiliation as a Buddhist, his frustration with the contractors. We have a special report on that coming up. But Tim Clemente, let me just ask you about Evan's reporting there on a second person. Obviously, until Evan was reporting this in D.C., they had a stand-in-place order for people in the area.
area. So that they thought that this could have been a second shooter. But now they're saying a second person who was involved. What do you think they're looking at?
Like I said a few minutes ago, and I think this may be a person that allowed him either access or maybe paved the way for him in some other way. The individual in question, Aaron, he had to get in there, and generally if you're not somebody that has an identification that provides you access, you can come in as a guest, but you have to be a guest of somebody. Somebody there has to be expecting you. Maybe that's this individual they're looking for. Maybe he allowed him to come in not knowing that this was his ultimate goal. And, because of that, he's run and hidden. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities, and it's going to take some time because they're going to be reviewing video, they're going to review entry logs and everything else to try and piece this together. And we got to give the investigators some time, but I think we'll have some answers, I would think, maybe by tomorrow.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Tim and John. We appreciate it. And again, our Evan Perez reporting that the shooter, Aaron Alexis, came in this morning by car, then cleared using his Navy contractor. I want to emphasize ID, with 3 weapons, including an AR-15, a rifle, and a Glock. Of course, the AR-15 used in some of the most recent horrific mass shootings in this country, including Aurora and Sandy Hook. Our breaking news coverage of the Navy Yard shooting will continue. We are learning more about the shooter. Alshon spoke with his landlord today, spoke with some of his friends, some of his co-workers. They're going to tell you about this man that you see there. Plus, 12 people murdered who lost their lives needlessly in today's horrific attack. 3 others currently being treated for their injuries. We are going to go live to the hospital for an update on their conditions and learn more about what we know about the victims tonight.